Does that mean that someone new is coming in?
I think that's
Kristina?
the chime. Yeah. Sorry about that.
Is that what it is? No, that's okay. All right. Well, our panelists are here, and I see that we see some audience. So welcome, everyone. My name is Lisya Seloni. Some of you know me. I'm a professor of applied linguistics in the Department of English, and Dr. Kristina Lewis, my esteemed colleague in TESOL, is here, and I'm happy to have you all here this Friday afternoon. Thank you for taking time of your day and joining us today. I would like to begin with a land acknowledgement to recognize the indigenous lands on which we're holding this event. Illinois State University sits on indigenous lands. These lands are the traditional birthright of indigenous people who are forcibly removed and have faced centuries of struggle for survival, resistance, and identity. Specifically, this place is the ancestral home of the Illini, Peoria, Miami, and later, due to colonial encroachment and displacement, the lands of Fox, Potawatomi, Shauk, Shawnee, Weabaynigo, Iowa, Mascouten, Piankesau, Waya, Kickapoo nations. We acknowledge this possession and displacement as well as the indigenous trauma that resulted. We also apologize to the indigenous communities we may have excluded due to colonial erasure and historical accuracy. So after this land acknowledgement, I'm excited to have you all here for our TESOL panel today. I'd like to thank the Department of English for sponsoring this event and virtually hosting our alumni today. And of course, many thanks to our panelists who are here today sharing their brilliance. So we will be hearing from some of our remarkable graduates who have gone on to become passionate teachers, making a difference in their unique ways. And one of the goals of our TESOL curriculum, as many of you here who have been through the program knows over the years, has been to cultivate critical language educators who empower their students through linguistically and culturally sustainable pedagogies. And our alumni today will share stories and exemplify this mission by enriching the lives of their students across diverse English language teaching contexts, and by taking roles such as bilingual educators, ESL support specialists, or branching into related fields using the skills and knowledge that they gain. So get ready to be inspired by their journeys and insights. And I hope that their experience in language teaching and journeys just inspire you to create your own academic path and professional path in TESOL and related fields. So let's welcome our panelists and dive into their stories. You already have the information. I think, Kristina, you're sharing the screen, right? I have two screens here. Okay, so in the screen, you see our presenters' names. So without further ado, I'm going to let them take the floor. Please feel free to add your questions for each panelist in the chat. And Kristina and I think that was the plan, right, Kristina? We're going to be reading them during the Q&A session. And you're also more than welcome to unmute yourself after we've finished hearing everyone's stories. And I think I don't see everyone's, kind of faces on my screen, but Adam, you are the first panelist, so take it away.
Hello, I just wanted to say thank you for having me. I am glad that I'm able to share my experience and hopefully help anyone that needs help in their journey, or maybe a little bit confused and wants just another insight on someone who took the TESOL path or the English major path at ISU. So yeah, I graduated from ISU in May 2024, so a few months ago. And since then, I have moved to Japan, Tokyo, Japan, and started my role as an assistant English teacher or assistant teacher at an international kindergarten. But before that, leading up to that, I guess I could talk about sort of my journey from the beginning. And sort of the idea I got to move to Japan was I always had an interest in travel. I like to travel. I like to sort of explore the world and be able to do that. And at some point during COVID, I think around 2020, 2021, I was still uncertain as to what I wanted to do with my life. I think I was at a community college, first year at a community college, and I was still undecided. And at some point I sort of tried to see, well, okay, what can I do with my likes for travel, and like what kind of position can I do? And at that point I wanted to figure that out. So I also applied to part-time jobs. And one of the part-time jobs that I applied to was having um, being like a preschool summer camp counselor. And then that sort of, after the summer ended, after I did that position, they asked me to stay on for the school year. So I had a year's experience worth of teaching at a preschool from ages 2 to 6. Um, and then that was sort of my first introduction into teaching and seeing how I would be able to do that, if I would be able to handle it. Um, and I really enjoyed it. I really liked being around students and being able to teach and use what I can to help younger students grow and have an influence on their learning. And that sort of transitioned my thought into wanting to teach abroad, or have the ability to teach abroad in many different places. And when I eventually came to ISU in 2022, when I transferred to ISU in 2022, I was originally on the elementary education path, but then switched to the English studies major path with the TESOL minor. And I feel like the TESOL minor is sort of where I really began to develop my ideas on education and also on the type of teacher that I want to be. Um, there's many different classes with many different like sort of focuses, so you're able to really develop key areas. And for me, the interesting part was that I came into the TESOL minor and into just teaching in general, teaching classes at ISU with already experience in a preschool environment. So I was able to have my own ideas, but with the classes, I was able to redevelop, reshape, and rethink sort of what it means to be a teacher. And certain, I can talk about, there's certain things like, hopefully, I don't know if, I don't know what time of the year it is and what has been introduced in the classes or not, but things like translanguaging, lesson planning, creating a week's worth of lessons, learning how to be a reflective practitioner, development of my teaching philosophies, redevelopment of my teaching philosophies, my ideas on student-centered teaching, movement-based teaching, student autonomy. These are all things that ideas that I developed through various activities, assignments, lessons uh, during my time at ISU. Some of those assignments were creating a teaching philosophy, as I said, doing a week's worth of lessons plans, which I really think was very helpful because that sort of puts you in the teacher's mindset and helps you understand how to scaffold the lesson. And you would, for example, introduce the concept at the start and then do I don't remember what it's called, but a closed circuit like teaching, and then you'd sort of open it up. And the point is to scaffold the things. I'm sorry, it's I don't remember exactly what the scientific like description of it is, but that assignment was really helpful. And then also one that I talk about a lot is sort of one of the final projects and towards the end of your time in the TESOL minor, and it has to do with researching a topic of your interest related to TESOL. And then it's sort of an annotated bibliography, so you have to go through all of these things. And my topic was related to teaching English in Japan because that's what I wanted to do. So I was able to find all of these useful articles through the ISU database, and I was able to research them, learn about them, and then connect them to previous learning that I did earlier in the semester and previous semesters. And it sort of was like a full circle moment where I was able to bring everything together. And I feel like that really helped me, especially because it was so focused on what I wanted to do with teaching, and teaching not only English, but in Japan specifically. And that was very useful to me. And then, yeah, in terms of my job, in terms of what I do now, I'm an assistant teacher at a international preschool. Um, I have really three main duties, and that is to be an assistant, to 4 to 6 year olds in 2 different classes. I assist the teacher either with lesson planning or in class support during class support because there's some students that are a little bit behind. The school is done in English, so English is the method of teaching, but these are kids that are from different countries. We have kids from Chile, we have kids from here in Japan, we have kids from Brazil and Europe as well, Turkey. So it's a very rounded and international preschool, but the teaching is done in English because the point is to develop their English skills. So during these classes, there are specific students, for example, that are behind either with their writing or with their speaking. So the teacher can't stop the entire class for just that one student because it's very difficult. So that's where I come in and sort of support the teacher and take time with that specific student if they need help. Uh, again, that's one of the things, lesson planning. At some point in the future, I just finished my training period, so at some point in the future, I'll be teaching classes as well. Yeah, I'll be teaching some classes as well. And then the other duties I have 2 other duties. I am a head, in the case that the main teacher is absent, I become the main teacher at the 2 to 3 year old class. And while there is a loose sort of lesson plan or curriculum that I have to follow with those 2 to 3 year olds, they are pretty young, so it really matters on their mood of the day, on how much energy they have. But I like to sort of have a little bit of my own influence and use a little bit of the things that I learned at ISU to be able to, when I'm in that class. So for example, I try to make it about the students. I try to make it movement based. I want them to move around, and whether that includes learning centers or tables that they have to go like from each to. And again, these are all things that I try to bring from my time at ISU. Also, just scaffolding, being able to introduce something, and then all scaffolding with scaffolding in a simpler way because they are very young. But being able to introduce these ideas has been really helpful to me. And then the last thing that I do is I do after school teaching, yes, making use of classroom spaces. Thank you. That's that's what I wanted to use. And then the last thing that I do is I do after school program for 2 students, I think once a week. So after the main school ends, I am a teacher. I took teaching duties from a teacher that moved on to a different school. She had a class every Tuesday teaching English or like an hour lesson with 2 girls that are, I think, 5 or 6 years old. But for example, at the start, I only had notes from the other teacher, but after the first lesson or after my first time interacting with these students, I felt like the notes that I had from the previous teacher and on their knowledge on how much they knew didn't sort of match my ideas or what I thought how much they knew. So the following week, I did sort of, and this is directly linking to one of the ISU classes, I did like a sort of really relaxed assessment to see sort of gauge how much they know through like my own eyes. So I came prepared, ready to ask them, talk about certain things, see if they're able to introduce themselves in English, see if they're able to do certain things like simple things like count or say the ABCs or like describe different colors and shapes or the weather or things like that, talk about the calendar. And then I used that assessment and I based my lesson plans moving forward on how much I understand that they knew on what I think that they should work on or shouldn't work on. And for example, that didn't match with what the previous teacher did because for me, in my eyes, they still had a very big struggle with being able to introduce themselves. My idea is I want them to produce the language as best as they can, but the idea that the previous teacher had was just repetition, repeat what I'm saying. And so I sort of, it took a little bit of time, it probably 1 to 2 weeks to shake that idea from them that not everything has to be repeat. Because I'd be trying to show them an example of how to introduce yourself. So I'd be like, my name is Adam. And then they would just repeat, my name is Adam. But their names are different. So that's like, I think repeating is okay in certain situations, but being able to repeat and also come up with your own words is very important as well. So that's something that I would try to do. And then again, lesson planning. They come in, we start with introductions, like a general lesson. They come in, we start with introductions, practicing introductions, because I still feel they have to work on that. And then we'd go on to the first topic and I would introduce it. I would talk about it and give an example. And then they would try to do that as a like creating their own language. And then if there's time, we would either go back and focus on something from a previous lesson that I think that they would need time to do, or we would introduce another concept as well. It's very difficult because it's only a 50-minute period and there's only so much that I could do, but it's interesting to find like a way to plan these lessons and see what you can come up with to help develop their language skills. And it's been an interesting journey up until this point here in Japan, but I haven't really talked about just Japan in general. And the last thing that I'll talk about, I don't know if I have time, but uh, has to do with, for any of you that are thinking about teaching abroad or teaching in a different place other than maybe the place that you grew up, or I like Illinois or the US or wherever you're from, there is a bit of culture shock. Like I've come to Japan before I moved here, so it was a little bit lessened, but there was still an effect of culture shock. There was still an effect of missing home and missing the foods that I ate at home and my family. So that is something that um, I think we talk about in one of the classes for a bit, but it is something that you should be prepared for, because like you can watch videos on it and the videos will explain like, yes, the first month is culture shock and then it's missing home and then it's like getting used to it and then you're settled in. Um, I'm currently in the getting used to it period, but um, yeah, the first couple, I think after the first month, the second month or like 3 weeks were kind of like, why am I here? Like, and also, I don't know if you know, but Japan in the summer, it was just August is the hottest month, and September was also really hot, but it was like 90 to 100 degrees, 100 plus degrees Fahrenheit, and then the humidity was also like 90% or higher. So it was like I got to the point where it's like, why am I here? What am I doing? And then also just I have to commute by train and walk. And every time I'd get to work, I'd be completely sweaty. Every time I'd get home, I'd be completely sweaty. So it was just a lot of stuff coming together to sort of second guess my choice. But then after a couple weeks, that sort of goes away and you sort of get into that slowly adjusting period and settling period. And the last few weeks, it's been a little bit nicer. Um, but yeah, I guess that's my journey. If anyone has anything that they wanted to ask me, I would be uh, glad to respond as best as I can.
Thank you so much, Adam. Really appreciate your input. It's really exciting that you're in Japan and adjusting well. I'm sorry that I missed you last year. I was on
Yeah.
sabbatical. So our paths never crossed, but it seems like we're doing amazing things. All right, thank you. So we're gonna move to our next speaker, Monse.
Hello. Hello everyone. My name is Monse Hernandez. Unfortunately, I'm not in Japan, so I'm not like super cool. But I am local. I'm in Addison, Illinois right now. Just not too far from the city. So I also graduated in May 2024. I'm fresh out of college. I got my first job here at the high school. My major was Spanish teacher education. That's what I was studying. That's what I was, that was my main focus. But my junior year, I was ahead of my credits for Spanish. and I needed to get a minor. So I was like, what should I study? I didn't know like what my calling was, because I was like, I'm already Spanish. Like that's what I want to do. I want to teach Spanish. And I came across TESOL and I was like, yeah, this is pretty cool. Sure, I'll do it. I'm gonna be honest, like it wasn't something that I was like called for in the beginning. Um, I just didn't want to graduate early and I needed another minor. So I started taking the classes, and like from the beginning, like from the first class I ever took, I was just like, wow, this is great. Like I chose the right thing to have as a hobby. That's what I kind of called it at first. I was like, this is great. Um, just because I felt so seen. I also like English was also my second language. And so as soon as we started learning about things, I was like, whoa, like that has a name for that. Like that was me in second grade and stuff. So it was just really interesting. It was kind of unexpected, but it was a great decision that I took. So that's why I decided to study TESOL, and I kept going. I kept going with all the classes. Unfortunately, I didn't do the practicum because since I started the minor kind of already in my junior year, by the time I was going to do my clinical hours, that was interfering with my methods class for my right before my student teaching. So it would have been like 150 hours a semester, and I couldn't do all of that. But I still like had it under my belt, and I really enjoyed it. I really liked it. So when I started applying for jobs, right before, like in March, I was still kind of like telling people, I was like, like I am a TESOL minor, that could help, because there's a teacher shortage, but no one was hiring Spanish teachers over here in my area, so it was kind of a struggle. Um, and there was a part-time Spanish teacher job, and so I was like, I'm just gonna apply to it for fun. We'll see what happens. It's my practice one. And I interviewed, and they were like, hey, like it's only part-time. And I was like, I know, and I don't want a part-time, but I just want to, I like the district, just kind of want to, you guys get to know me, get to know you. And they're like, we do have like an EL position available, we could potentially do like half and half. And I was like, yeah, that could be cool. Like if it's possible. They're like, depending on the candidate, we could make it work. And then they made it work. So then I did half Spanish, half EL. And that's where I'm at right now. So now I'm at the high school teaching half time Spanish, half time EL, and I literally couldn't imagine it any other way. I feel like English, um, like the students that I'm teaching with English are just my favorite ever students. They're so motivated to learn. They're just amazing. They remind me a lot of like how when I was younger, and it's just kind of like you didn't really know a lot, but now anything that they get right, it just like warms my heart, and I care so much for them. I remember in the TESOL courses, we did an assignment. It was like the language teacher autobiography or something. And we just like wrote an essay about like why we decided to become a teacher, or along those lines. Point being, I spoke a lot about like my experience and how I've always wanted to be a teacher, and like language is just such a powerful way to interact and build relationship with students, especially through culture. And it's just amazing how like that influenced what I do now, because I didn't think I would ever actually be an ESL teacher. It was just kind of like something that I liked. But now here in my career, like 8 weeks into school, it's like I can't imagine my life without teaching EL now. So I don't know how my school's gonna do it, but like I need them to give me the same thing next year, because this was supposed to be like just because we didn't have enough sections of Spanish, but now that we might have enough sections for next year, I'm like, I don't know how they're gonna do it, but please keep me the same way. Um, but yeah, I've learned a lot from studying TESOL, a lot of like the strategies, even just like the why things happen the way they happen, like how they come into the country like not knowing, and maybe they're strong orally, but realistically, like that doesn't mean anything while they're reading or writing or stuff like that. So that's really interesting. And I continue to grow and build my knowledge and skills like daily, just like interacting with students, like learning what works best for some, what doesn't work best for others. And because I'm like literally on both sides of the spectrum, like I teach Spanish, I teach English, I kind of get to see um, um, like maybe what helps one group doesn't help the other group, or back and forth. And my school is amazing with EL. We have a whole like bilingual program. We offer like bilingual math, bilingual geography, science, and EL reading, like a lot. So we also have a lot of professional development opportunities. I actually just went to one last week or this week. And it was just kind of like showing us new strategies and how to best support multilingual students and stuff. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's where I'm at right now. It's been great. And I'm so glad I took that TESOL minor, that decision, because it changed like my whole life, really. Like I never thought I would be here. But if it weren't for that TESOL minor, then I wouldn't be as happy as I am now in this position. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Melissa. It's so great seeing you. Okay, and next we have Mallory.
Thank you for having me. So my name is Mallory Lininger. I graduated spring 2023. It's telling me my connection is unstable. Can you guys see and hear me okay? Okay. Just let me know and I can repeat things if you need me to. So I graduated in spring.
I think the sound is not very clear, right?
You're a little like
Broken kind of.
the
Is that choppy when I speak?
it sounds kind of mechanical. I think earlier when you didn't have your headphones on, it was clearer.
Yeah. Let me disconnect my head. See if it helps. Sorry, technical difficulties all for the speaker. All right, can you hear me okay now?
Much clearer.
Yes, much.
Okay, perfect. So it's just my headphones. Okay, so I'll just start over. Hi, my name is Mallory Lininger. I graduated in spring 2023, so this is now my second year of teaching. My major was actually in English education. So my main goal when I went into college, I knew I wanted to be an English teacher. And by English teacher, I thought that meant an English language arts teacher. So my plan was to be teaching ELA. But obviously didn't work out like that. So I'm from Rochelle, Illinois, which is a town in northern Illinois, but now I live in Champaign, Illinois by the U of I, and I work in Rantoul, Illinois, which is 45 minutes north of me. Lots of map directions if you're good with that. So I actually student taught at Rantoul. So that's kind of how I got my in there, but just to kind of go in sequential order, I guess. So I started doing my TESOL minor during COVID. So my first semester actually in my English ed major program was over COVID, and so was for TESOL. When I joined the TESOL minor, it was similar for me. I wasn't like super like called to it. I was mainly doing it because I wanted more credits. I wanted to take a minor. I was maybe hoping I could have a foot in the door by having this extra endorsement on my license. And I ended up loving it way more than I thought I would, which turned out to be a blessing in disguise. So, when I was in the TESOL minor, I mean, one of the things I had to do was the 100-hour practicum with a ethnography paper at the end that analyzed kind of my experiences. And that was a really busy semester for me. I had those 100 hours, which was like 4 hours throughout the week. I had my regular classes. I had my clinical for my major classes because this was the semester before I was going to student teach. So everything was really ramping up. But I was kind of determined to get that endorsement on my teaching license. So I took the practicum, and I'm really glad I did, because this allowed me the opportunity to get hired at the school where I student taught. So at Rantoul Township High School, just to give you a little info about that kind of setting I'm in right now, it's described described as a urban school, and we are a Title I school. A lot of our, like most of our kids get free breakfast, free lunch every day. We have about 150 ELL students at Rantoul and only 3 ESL teachers. So that's about a 1 to 50 student ratio. And I came in not speaking a second language. To be clear, English is my only language. So if you are kind of on the fence about getting the TESOL minor and you're thinking, oh, I don't speak a second language though, that's not going to be helpful for me. Well, think again, because it's very helpful for me and I only know English. So at Rantoul, we are a team of 3. We have ESL 1, 2, 3, and 4, and that goes from newcomer all the way up to modified English 1. So we get a lot of students who are mostly Spanish speakers and other South American indigenous language speakers like Chu. But we also have students come from other countries such as Ghana and Afghanistan, but mostly we have a lot of Spanish speakers. However, there's a lot of different dialects between those Spanish speakers. So for me, as I'm learning Spanish through my students, it's been kind of a little difficult to try to work through that. But we learn that in reverse in TESOL, right? That there's a bunch of different dialects in English, which makes it hard for L2 English learners. So I think that's kind of interesting. TESOL is immensely helpful and it has helped me every single day as I am at school. On my bookshelf behind my desk, I have all my textbooks from TESOL that I keep on hand and I reference often. So we also talk a lot about like WITA standards and like access testing. So if you are already in the TESOL minor and you kind of just like testing stuff, I don't need to pay attention. You need to pay attention to that. Like we do so much access testing. It takes so much time, especially with only 3 people on staff. So that was kind of interesting to me because I didn't think that would be as relevant to my everyday as it is. Yeah, I have like little notes prepared for myself here because I'm an over planner. But yeah, I think that's about all I have on myself. I would love to answer any questions you guys have. Put them in the chat for the Q&A. But yeah.
Thank you so much, Mallory. I'm so glad that you're talking about assessment. There are a couple of people right now in this call who are taking my assessment course. And definitely when we think about assessment, sometimes we think, I'm not going to be a, test designer, but we also talk about formative assessment and how it impacts our day-to-day life. So
yes, especially because it helps you, just to add, tack this on to my little spiel, that we use so much of that stuff with our coworkers. Like we're giving that data to the science teachers. We're giving that data to the math teachers and helping them make modifications to their own classes. So kind of paying attention to that WITA stuff and those WITA standards, and especially those access levels that goes up to 6, I believe, is super important and helps a lot in the high school setting.
Thank you. Extra motivation to study for the next week's midterm for us. All right. Next we have Madison Mettler. Hi, Madison.
Hi, everyone. How we doing? Can everybody hear me? Okay, awesome. Thank you. So, hi, my name is Madison Mahler. I have my degree is Spanish education. That was my major at ISU. My minor was Latino Studies, and then I got an endorsement in TESOL and ELL. So currently, I am a multilingual educator, ELL teacher at a high school in Cook County, and I absolutely love my job. So I'm in my 2nd year teaching, just like Mallory. We both started at the same time in TESOL. Last year, I taught the newcomer, developing, and bridging levels of English. But this year, I'm kind of focusing on the newcomers with language arts, communications, and then I'm doing an ML resource class right now. So for those of us who might not know, in our school, newcomers are students who are just starting their English language journey. So for the longest time, I thought I was going to be a Spanish teacher. Ever since high school, I was like, I love my Spanish classes. Like, this is where I'm meant to be. Kind of like Monse, where she was like, this is where I want to be. Like, I'm ready. I had all my credits to graduate early, but I just felt like there was something missing. And then all of a sudden, I got an email my junior year at ISU about TESOL. So for those of you who might be juniors, it is not too late to join TESOL. You have time in your schedule. Trust me, it is a great experience. So speaking of TESOL, I thought I would share something that we did. In one of our TESOL classes, we had the opportunity to go to Chittix Middle School to work with ELL students. And it was so cool to be able to apply the concepts we were learning in our TESOL courses and the pedagogical approaches we were learning in class to real life scenarios in the classroom. So this civic engagement project that we did was also in collaboration with the Illinois Art Station. So it was with the middle school and then the Illinois Art Station. So in groups, we helped our multilingual students create a book about their immigration story or their family history or any story that they want to tell about themselves. So we visited the multilingual program in the classroom. We met students, we created close bonds with them and their teachers. And we collectively worked on a bilingual life writing project. It was really cool. So the style of this book was like an accordion style book. And so it had their home language in the front. And then on the back, we kind of did English, which was really cool. So we had that translanguaging process there, which was really cool. And then after that, we went to the Normal Public Library and we invited the community to come see their beautiful art that we worked on, which was so cool, their beautiful project. And I remember to this day, it was so cool to see the children smile and just see how excited they were to show off their work and to show that they were proud of their linguistic repertoire, that they are writing in English and they're writing in their home language and they're proud of their multilingual identity. And that was super important for me to see. So from that point on, I knew the TESOL path was where I was meant to be. I was like, wow, this is so rewarding. I want to do a job like this. I also want to mention in the TESOL practicum class, it's the last class you'll take in your TESOL journey, we had the unique opportunity to observe different multilingual teachers. So this was also a very enriching experience for me because I got to see what I liked about some teachers teaching and what I didn't like, what I thought I could do better possibly as a multilingual teacher. So that was also a very good experience for me. So this takes me to where I am today as a multilingual educator. I really love my job and I gotta owe it all to our professors here at ISU. So I would not have this experience if it wasn't for our lovely professors in the TESOL program. It is so awesome to be in a school where the students are your everything. And I'm just so beyond grateful. And I highly recommend that you do this program if you're not in it yet. Especially in my newcomer classes, you see students progress so much academically, but also socially, which is really cool to see. It's just such a lovely place. My students give me a sense of purpose. They make me feel loved and I make them feel loved. And they challenge me in the best ways. They make me a better teacher. So in case you're wondering, I feel prepared and confident to teach multilingual students because of the exceptional TESOL program that ISU embodies. I have veteran teachers coming up to me, asking me for help on how to best serve their multilingual students in their classroom. And I'm only a second-year teacher, right? So just from that statement, you could see how amazing and what an incredible program TESOL is if it prepares you that much as only a second-year teacher, right? So I'm teaching at my dream school, the best students and colleagues I could have ever asked for. And I wouldn't be here today living out my dreams without our amazing professors. So thank you for igniting this passion in me that I didn't even know existed when I walked into college. And I highly recommend that you finish this program.
You guys are giving me goosebumps. I'm like tearing up here. This is so great, Madison. Thank you. I still remember the email that Madison sent me during my sabbatical. Dr. Seloni, I'm an ESL teacher, and Madison is going to present soon. Is that right? Are you still presenting? And you want to talk about that too, so that people know your presentation, upcoming presentation?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Seloni. I will be presenting at ICTFL, ICTFL. It is at the NIU Conference Center in Naperville. So ICTFL is designed for world language teachers. It's like professional development where you can learn more on how to become a better teacher with strategies and practices. But they're also branching out to the multilingual side of things as well. So my colleague and I will be presenting on genre-based instruction, what I learned in Dr. Seloni's class. And his part of the presentation will be on the world language side, specifically Spanish. And my part of the presentation will be on the multilingual side. So if you're interested, I'd love to see you there. And I promise you would learn a lot.
Thank you, Madison. Really great seeing you guys. All right, we have next we have Elisa. Hi, Elisa.
Hi, thank you for having me. I just want to say, everyone who's spoken today, I can just tell that you went through the TESOL program because it's such a great community. And I think, anyone who goes into this program comes out a better person, more reflective, more just kind and understanding of others and their experiences in the world. So I was in reading the comment that you posted, Dr. Seloni, about the importance of, if you can learn another language, maybe you don't become fluent in it, but just to take a class and have that experience. It's quite humbling. And I was in band and choir in high school, so I skipped out on foreign language. And I had to take it when I went to my community college. So that was my first time learning another language. I was in a Spanish class. I took 2 years of it. And I was just talking to my husband recently, and I was trying to explain conjugations to him and just all of the grammar points and how overwhelmed I felt in my classes. And he's a native speaker of Spanish, so he could not understand, which good for him. But we had a good laugh about that. Really just, I was a teacher and now I have transitioned. A little bit about myself. I'm an alumni. I was at ISU from 2018 to 2021. So I'm a bit older than the rest of you. And so I worked in my first real experience with student teaching. I was in Pilsen, a neighborhood in Chicago, and I taught in the ESL program there. It was actually during COVID though, which was interesting because I was on Zoom. So, and it was also at the height of a lot of things that people were struggling with, financially, emotionally. There was all of that going on. So it was an added thing to think about with students and their families. And the class that I was working with, they were predominantly new arrival immigrants to the country. So just trying to support them with English as well as any logistical concerns. And just when someone's learning, as I said, it's humbling to learn another language, and it's even it's more challenging, to move to a new place. And in the TESOL program, I've been able to learn more about that position because I didn't have that challenge growing up. I had it easy in terms of that. With the country was, English was my native language, and also just navigating like bureaucratic systems was easy for me as a citizen of the country. But then I received a Fulbright grant to teach in Turkey, which Dr. Seloni had mentioned in the comments about that. I was teaching for 9 months there, and I was teaching in a college setting, so I was teaching freshmen and sophomores. And the students, they had to learn English in order to go into their program. which is not, that is not something that I've experienced here. I don't think it's something that most people have to do in the US, right? Of having to learn a foreign language before you can even study engineering, nursing, any major that you want to focus in. So learning more about that and supporting them in developing the fluency so that they could go into the career that they were interested in going into. So yes, there was also culture shock, but it was exciting for me. It was challenging, but in a good way. And it shaped me to be, you know, more mature, stronger in navigating things, more confident in navigating daily life. Because when you're living in a new place, I didn't know anyone there. I had to make friends. I had to learn who to trust and trust in other people to support me when I couldn't do something by myself. And just the friendships that are made from that. So Fulbright is a great program. I highly recommend, if you're interested in teaching abroad, to apply for it. And you apply around graduation, so it'll be prior to graduation. And really the program, its goal is to promote mutual understanding. And it started from wanting to end world wars, because if we understand each other, we're not going to be fighting with each other because we're going to have that respect for each other. So yeah, Fulbright, it's in over 160 countries, so it's not just Turkey. So definitely check it out. And then, of course, there are other programs as well, but that is just one that I was able to be a part of. And then, so to reiterate everything that's already been said, kind of my experience, I was, a teacher in Turkey, and then I taught in my hometown in Peru, Illinois. So I'm just up north from Bloomington. And while I decided to leave education and continue my studies in grad school, I'm still using the teachings that I learned from while I was in the program. So it's super relevant in teaching, of course, but it's also super relevant to grad school, which is not something that, I'm in a mental health counseling program. So you wouldn't think teaching English to speakers of other languages would be relevant to a counseling program, but it truly is. I mean, it has just made me better able to communicate with people from different backgrounds than my own, different cultures, and also not just simply, across race, ethnicity, cultural background, but everyone is unique and communicates differently. So being able to respect that, embrace that, and include that into a conversation to strengthen those interactions has been huge. So I highly recommend this program. I mean, I couldn't recommend it enough. Truly, this is, out of all my studies, even until today, don't tell my current professors, but TESOL has been one of the more profound experiences that I've had and relevant to actually, getting a career beyond school and just in, personal life too, daily interactions with people. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much, Elisa. That's amazing. I'm so proud of you all. All right, I'm gonna let Kristina lead the next session where I think we're doing the Q&A. Is that right?
Yeah, so we want to open a little time for Q&A. So I know a few people have put some comments in the chat, but does anyone want to share a question for one or more of our panelists?
I'm sorry, I have like 6 or 7 minutes, so if I could before
Yeah,
I
do we have any questions for Adam first? Because I think
Yeah, thank you.
first thing in the morning for you.
Yeah.
I think there was a question for Adam in the chat.
Shafiq,
I'm trying to
might
search.
have a question for Adam.
Yes, I have a question. It is not a very difficult one. It's quite easy question. Like, I think Dr. Seloni is aware of that. We all talked about kind of native speakerism and non-native speakerism in the in the recruitment process. So my question is, I'm just trying to find out the question. Where it is. Oh, yes. So like, when you were recruited, like in Japan, uh, was kind of any preference given to the native speakers, or was there any such mention in the advertisement process that, hey, we will give preference to the native speaker, or only the native speaker will or can apply?
Mm. Yeah, so in terms of the recruitment process, this was something that I did uh online, like during my time at ISU, during like a 2-month period in February and March, roughly. I researched a lot of different schools. I researched their philosophies and sort of what they were about because I didn't want to just blindly accept the school that gave me the most pay or that paid me the best. It was important for me as well to understand sort of what the school is about. And you'll come across schools that, yes, they only choose native speakers or they only have like very specific requirements, but there's also schools that sort of focus on not only being a native speaker because they understand that anybody can teach English, but they focus on sort of what experience you have, what you were taught at school, those types of things. For example, the school that I currently work at, there's um, several teachers that are from the Philippines. There was a teacher that was from France. There was a teacher that was from Africa. Now there's a new teacher that is from Africa. So it's a very sort of international. That's the thing about international schools is that they harbor an international mindset. They want to develop an international mindset in the students. So hiring teachers who are just perfect English speakers from the US or from Australia or from the UK isn't sort of what that's all about, because if you want to really develop an international mindset in the students, then that has to start from the top as well. And you have to have an understanding that teachers from many different countries are very capable of teaching not only English, but like just teaching in general and doing a good job in teaching. So yeah, during the recruitment process, there were some schools that were like that. There were some schools that people wrote reviews that they worked at that refused to hire, didn't want to hire people that weren't perfect native speakers. But there's also definitely schools that do. And the thing is that in terms of the recruitment process, there's only so many options that you will get if you are applying from abroad. So I was applying from overseas, and I maybe had 5 interviews in total, and I sent maybe 20 plus uh, applications, but I had maybe 10 emails that were sent to me that said, "I'm sorry, we do not hire applicants from overseas. Please email us when you are in Japan." So the two options I had in terms of like in terms of my application applying for a job, was to apply from overseas and have that security going to Japan, going into Japan, that I have a job, or come to Japan and then look for work, look to apply to these different schools and look to get an interview in person. I chose to do it from abroad just so I have that safety net, just so I'm comfortable with already having the job part of my moving settled, because it could be a lot of stress moving to a different country. But now that I'm in Japan, if I ever choose to, in the future, which I probably will at some point, either switch schools or switch to like a different focus in education or a different career, being able to be here in Japan sort of opens the floor up more for that. But yeah, in terms of your question directly about native or non-native speakers, I don't think that schools are just purely native speakers only, because I haven't experienced that.
It is diverse kind of teacher
Yeah.
population.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And if I could add to that, I would say that it would be even a benefit to, as I said before, not be a native speaker because you had to go through the process of learning it as a foreign language. And that makes you more empathetic and aware kind of the steps of learning the language. That was something, the program that I was in, most of us were native speakers and we were not very good at teaching grammar. So they even said after our year there, they said, maybe we should just put the next Fulbrighters in just teaching the speaking classes, because there is that struggle sometimes with being able to talk about grammar and to teach grammar when you haven't learned it in the same way as a foreign language.
I think we had another question from Police, so I think had to leave, but it was a question directed to Adam, but maybe all of our panelists could speak to it a little bit. Is it for someone who wants to do what you're doing, do you have any maybe a quick recommendation for somebody who wants to do the same thing that you're doing now?
Yeah, so it really depends on what you want to do. It really depends on what age you want to teach. I went into teaching younger students because that was sort of the experience I had working at a preschool previously. So that was sort of the comfort factor that I wanted to go in sort of with an age group that I was familiar with, because teaching in a different country is already difficult enough as it is. Teaching students of a different language is already difficult enough as it is. So I wanted a little bit of that comfort, but I have no doubt that I'll transition into teaching older students as well. Specifically because I think definitely a lot of the ideas, a lot of the things that you learn in TESOL are sort of directed towards teaching English, maybe from elementary up or middle school up. And I feel like those ideas are very, like, right now I'm happy with what I'm able to use with what I learned from ISU, but I feel like there's more that I can use, that I want to use, sort of, and to keep developing as a teacher, keep developing, using that knowledge. But yeah, if you're coming to Japan, there's obviously roles as a main teacher, as an assistant teacher. There's curriculum building roles that schools sometimes have, and whether you want to go into teaching or you want to go into something related to teaching or something else completely, there's a lot of different things that you can do. And I, I sort of like, I think Japan is a good place because, first of all, it's pretty safe. It's very accessible. It's very accessible in terms of where you can go and what you can do. And it's just sort of very different from what we know, whether it's the US or Europe or like it's very completely different. So I find that part exciting. Um, uh, I don't know. I don't know how else I could answer that
Oh, that's
question,
great.
but
Yeah,
yeah.
thank you. Do any of our
And
other panelists want to say something to that? Like if someone who wants to do what you're doing. Yeah, Mallory.
If somebody wants to do what I'm doing, we're hiring. Rental Township is hiring. So
What
uh,
would prepare someone to be a good candidate for that job?
being comfortable to work with a lot of different levels, being ready to collaborate across the school because we do pushing classes sometimes, and also ready to share a classroom because we are short on space. We have a lot of, our building is really old, so there's only so many classrooms, but we keep getting more and more students. So I do not envy the person who has the job of making the schedule.
Thank you.
Mallory,
yeah.
oh, go ahead, Adam.
All right. Yeah, I have to leave, so I apologize because I have a next scheduling conflict, but I'm really happy to be able to come on here today and talk sort of about my teaching and my path to the point of going through ISU, going through the TESOL program and being able to teach here in Japan. I'm very grateful to the teachers and staff that I had at ISU who helped me develop not only my skills as a teacher and develop these ideas in teaching, but also develop ideas as a person. And I'm really happy to come on here and share that today. I also saw that there's some familiar faces in the participant in the chat and everything. So I'm glad that I'm able to see some of you as well. And if you have any questions for me that I maybe didn't get a chance to ask, I can type my email in the chat, and if you would like to, you can definitely reach out to me, and I will do my best to respond as quickly as possible. So yeah, I hope everyone has a good rest of the conference, and I'm sorry that I have to leave early, but
Okay, thanks, Adam.
thank you so much
Thanks,
for
Adam.
For
today.
joining us.
Thank you.
Good
Have a
luck.
good day, everyone. Bye.
And I think we're going to wrap up pretty quickly, pretty soon. But yeah, do any of our other panelists want to say anything to that question of like, if someone wants to do what you're doing now, what you would recommend to them?
Well, I can speak to say that it's okay to not have all the answers about the exact job that you're going to go into after school, or even, after your first job, even staying with that. So it's a journey to figure out kind of where you'll fit kind of in the working world, and that is completely okay. And again, the skills that you can learn in this program, they span beyond teaching. They're super relevant to teaching, but beyond that as well, they're relevant.
Thank you, Alyssa. Do we have any other final questions that we want to ask to any of the panelists? Okay, maybe the last thing we'll do very briefly, I won't take your time very long with this, but we wanted to just share both for people who are here right now, but then also for the recording for this, we wanted to just briefly share for folks who aren't studying TESOL yet, what your options are for studying TESOL here with us. So you heard some of the panelists mention courses they took or projects they did. So like, how can you do that if you're interested in that? So for undergraduate students, one option is our TESOL minor, which is an 18 credit minor in the English department. It has the courses that have here on the screen. If you wanted to get started with the minor next semester, we're offering English 343 and 344. So you could jump right in and take a TESOL course. You can also take English 341 any semester. So those are great places to start with TESOL if you're interested in that. There's also an option for an ESL endorsement in the state of Illinois. So in Illinois, you can only get endorsed for ESL if you already have your professional educator license in another subject area or grade level. So, but you can add on an ESL endorsement to your teaching credential. So I've listed the requirements here from the state of Illinois, and doing the TESOL minor plus the practicum fulfills the requirements for the ESL endorsement. So if you're an undergrad and you're in a teacher education program, you could do the TESOL minor with the practicum, and you could add that secondary endorsement, which it sounds like from our panelists, they feel like is a really beneficial thing. And I think it's also really practical because many schools look for people who have dual endorsements, and ESL is a great one to be able to have. And then some people are also interested in studying TESOL at the graduate level. So after you've finished your bachelor's degree, really diving into TESOL. So we have a couple options for people who want to study TESOL at the graduate level. We have a master's in English studies where you can concentrate in TESOL, take courses in TESOL, and even do a thesis, do original research in TESOL. And then for graduate students in any program at ISU, we have a TESOL graduate certificate. So these are, if you take the courses for the graduate certificate, you get this graduate certificate in TESOL on your transcript, and you kind of show that you have some interest in expertise in TESOL. One thing to note for students who want the TESOL graduate certificate, it's not enough to just take the courses. You actually have to apply to the certificate and get the university to put that program on your transcript. So this has been a really quick overview. I want to end with this last slide of who to contact if you want to learn more about TESOL. So right now, Ms. Brooklyn Vogel is the advisor for undergraduates doing the TESOL minor. She's great for figuring out courses and how to fit them into your schedule. And Dr. Seloni and I are both really excited to meet with students and talk to you about TESOL. Even if you're not sure yet and you're just considering TESOL, we'd be happy to talk with you. So I think that's where we're going to end it for today. And thank you very much to our panelists. I think we can also say, if anyone has other questions for our panelists, feel free to send them to me or Dr. Seloni, and we can pass them on to the panelists if you want to get in touch with someone. But thank you all for being here and joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Have a good